So at this point, I want to start targeting my list over here, my navigation list. And what I want to do is start editing the properties. So now when I look at this, this is what's referred to as an unordered list. And the tag name for that is UL. So what I'm going to do is to target the UL, I'm going to go here to my property panel, click a new rule, and since I'm redefining a tag, I select the tag and I do UL, I hit OK, and essentially what I could do is in the category over here, list, that's when I could start working with my list items. And I have a few different options. One of them is what type of bullet I want, and I like the disk, that's what they're called, so I'm going to apply the disk and define it. Bullet image, if I plan to change the bullet from this disk to image I'm going to have specifically, which I actually plan to do later, here's where I would set that. And position is another one that's important to know, because the position refers to where this bullet point is going to be, what side of the margin it's going to be on. So right now, the bullet is outside of the margin by default, like so. So once I hit position outside and I hit apply, it doesn't change. But I want to bring it inside, and what's going to happen is this bullet is going to come to the right side of the margin, and voila. So I'll hit OK, and I'm going to preview this, and there we go. Okay, but there's something interesting going on over here that I need to get to. You see, actually let me go back to Firefox, and now because I use that universal selector, which is the asterisk, and I set the padding and the margins to 0 and none, it's taking away, that style sheet is taking away any default attributes that would happen from the browser. And there's a default attribute that would be particularly useful if I could have going for me, and it's this. I just disabled all the styles, and you notice that my list actually, so here's my list, and inside of that there's a sublist, because under layout there's this sublist over here. And if we look into the code of this, let's see. So layout, if we look at the code, you'll see that I start an unordered list as the navigation bar, and each item is a list item, and when I get to the section layout, I start another unordered list, and inside of there they have other list items. So I'm in the situation now where I want to target the unordered list that's inside of a list item. So how do I do that? Well, I use what's called as a child selector, and well, here we go. Let me show you how to do it. First, let me move. I just created that new UL. You know, I'm always trying to keep things organized, so I'm putting that up there. And now I'm going to create a new property, and it's definitely an advanced tag. And here's how I'm doing it. So first, I have an unordered list, and inside of that is a list item. So to define that, I put UL as the unordered list, then no spaces or anything, and I put a greater than sign, and then I put list item. So now I'm targeting the list item inside of the UL, but because list items are always inside of it, this is kind of redundant at this point. It doesn't mean anything. But here's where it gets interesting. I add one more greater than sign and UL, and now what I'm targeting is an unordered list inside of an unordered list. So when I hit OK, I'm going to go to list, and now I'm going to choose type to be square. And before I hit apply, what I'm expecting to happen is that all of these things that are the unordered list that's inside of layout is going to, these bullet points over here are going to change into little squares. And yes, in fact they did, like so. And there's also one other property I'm going to apply to them, and I'm going to go to the box, and I'm going to choose some left padding of 1 EM and apply that And there we go. And now that indented all that stuff for me. And let me preview this. And there we are. So now I got the effect that I wanted, which was to have this list indented inside of this list so visually people could tell the difference. And I did that by using a more advanced selector, and it's called a child selector. Now, child selectors aren't always going to work on older browsers, and from what I understand, they could be even buggy in Internet Explorer 7. Although I have Internet Explorer 7 here because I'm running a virtualized instance of Windows XP, and I just want to show you that, in fact, this effect is working in Internet Explorer. So far so good. I know things are working now, especially if I've been on a Mac the whole time, and when you start using advanced selectors like these, you want to really check all the browsers to make sure that it's working. I've also heard that, you know, if I put spaces in between this, if I put UL space greater than space LI space greater than space, I basically just put in, when you look at the code part of it, I just put spaces here, right here I'm referring to, is that could cause errors sometimes in Internet Explorer 7. So that's a little gotcha that you need to remember, and it's just good practice to keep them without any spaces.